Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit like, follow, or subscribe on the platform that you're listening to us on. You can also check out my work at the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com, for exclusive hard rock and heavy metal interviews, live show coverage, album reviews, and more. My guest for episode 171 is JOAKIM ARNELL of the oldies rock and roll act, The Refreshments. Don't confuse them with the early 90s US act of the same name. The Swedish-based Refreshments have been making old-time rock and roll for 30 years. They've just released their 20th studio album, a stiff one. It came out on November 17th through Sound Pollution Wild Kingdom Records. And here's bassist and vocalist JOAKIM ARNELL to tell you more about it. If I knew absolutely nothing about the Refreshments, how would you describe the band's music to me?
The band loves American 50s rock and roll and British pub rock from the 70s. So it's a bit of both. But I mean, British pub rock came from 50s American rock and roll anyway, so. But we have some influences from England as well.
And you're getting ready to release your 20th studio album on November 17th, a stiff one, through Sound Pollution and Wild Kingdom. This is your first new studio release since prior to the lockdowns. Real Rock and Roll came out in 2019. Have you been sitting on this album until things got back to normal?
We started actually recording this album 2020. But then we had to cancel it. Well, what do you call it? Postpone the rest of the recording because we couldn't get together because we're spread out in Sweden and we had to put everything on hold. The album wasn't actually ready till this spring. Well, there was some planning with a record company and so on. So this finally is coming out now.
Well, it's an excellent album. I've been giving it a listen for the last couple weeks. It's certainly something different than we normally hear today, and certainly coming out of Sweden. Let's talk a little bit about some of the songs. Let's talk about the lyrical inspiration behind Traveling Light.
Traveling Light is a cover that Cliff Richard and the Shadows released in 1958. It was a slow song back then, but I think this was their second single after their first single hit. Move It was the first, I think, and then this was the second single. But we've done it a bit rockier than the original, as we usually do.
And Cliff Richard's got like 99 albums out, so I wouldn't even have recognized it was a Cliff Richard song.
No. It's hard to recognize even if you've heard the original.
Another single that you have out is Mama Rosa. Was this inspired by a particular place that you're familiar with?
Yeah, that's a song that I've written, and I almost said wife. We're not married, but we've been together for a long time. We were on the Canary Islands, and we happened to sit at Mama Rosa's and meet Mama Rosa. And we were just there for 2 weeks, but it just started me thinking, nice place, good food, and so on. Having a few drinks there, all of a sudden, when we came home, it became a song.
Well, I feel like that you make observations of a lot of people, especially on this album. You got a song called Mary Jean. You got Howard the Coward. You got Mama Rosa. So I assume you're a very observant person and then put it into song.
That's correct. It doesn't have to be anything special or big happenings, but it's just little things that when I start writing a song, I think about what has happened and so on. And there's a little bit of truth in every song. But then I take it a bit further and I maybe make some things up. But there's a core in it that is always true.
Let's talk about your third single, The Light of Love, and the inspiration behind that one.
That is kind of an idea that came up. We did a tour in churches 2 years ago. And it doesn't have to be religious. And the song isn't religious. It can be about only love. But it kind of started out as an idea when we were doing a tour for Christmas 2-3 years ago. So it's kind of in these dark times, as all people say, you know, it's kind of a song about giving hope, and there's love somewhere. We got to find it.
One of the things I noticed, the Refreshments doesn't really do music videos. Kind of the way that things go today. People are putting out music videos again like they did in the 80s, but I didn't find any for you guys.
No, we haven't done many videos. There are a couple out there, and there are some, I think 3 or 4 DVDs, like live recordings from concerts. But that's true. We need to do more videos for sure.
The latest album, a stiff one, is coming out digitally and on CD and on vinyl, black vinyl, red vinyl. Is this the first time you guys have been on vinyl?
We've done vinyl before, but never red. It's very beautiful, I would say. It's a nice color.
Looks good.
Christmas coming up, got to be red.
Are you a vinyl collector yourself?
Not anymore. Well, if it's something special, I used to collect singles and LPs and CDs, but I haven't bought many vinyls lately. But I appreciate this thing. It was the record company's idea to do a red one, and I must say I enjoy it.
Well, the kind of vinyl I collect is only color or splatter or picture or something special. So they're catering to a guy like me that goes beyond the regular black vinyl.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I might be hooked already. We'll see.
Well, speaking of the record label, how did you end up signing with Sound Pollution for the release of this album?
We were on a tour with a guy called Zulu. He's got a band called Diamond Dogs, and they were on or are on the same label. So he suggested that this could be a good company for you, and they enjoyed being with Sound Pollution and the Wild Kingdom. So we had a meeting like early spring, and we connected, and we said it's gonna be fun to work together. Oh yes, we said. So we went for it.
The Refreshments are going to be gearing up in a couple of weeks for your rock and roll Christmas tour, celebrating the 20th anniversary of the album of the same name, Rock and Roll Christmas. Obviously you're playing traditional Christmas music, or is it a bit of American traditional, Swedish traditional, and then something in between?
Well, something in between. Some classics that we keep like they were. Then we have done rock and roll versions of some older American traditional Christmas songs. And then I have written maybe half of the songs on the Christmas albums. We've done 3 Christmas albums. So it's a mixture of our own stuff and mainly American traditional songs. We're always keeping an eye on you guys over there, you know. Well, it's the traditional songbook songs.
So you guys are only touring through Sweden as far as this Christmas show is concerned, right?
Yeah. We are.
Do you normally get outside of Sweden, or do you mainly play all your live gigs local?
Well, mainly, I mean, all through the years. The band's been together for 34 years now. And you could say like 95% of the shows we do in Sweden. We go to Finland, Norway. We go to England sometimes, or the UK. Well, it's only been in England, I think. Yeah. We've been to America 2 times with the band. We've been to Austin to do the South by Southwest week there, and we played at Antone's. That is like 10 years ago now. Yeah. And then we went to Memphis, and we recorded an album, like a Chuck Berry tribute at the Sun studio recording there.
That must have been a great experience to kind of record at the same studio that, you know, the music that influences you was created at.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a magical moment there. That was great fun. We enjoyed it a lot. So, I mean, we'd like to get out more and leave Sweden every now and then, but there aren't many requests about old rock and rollers. So right now we got a couple of gigs in Finland, but there's not many requests. Like going to America, people are writing, "Why don't you come here?" But it costs a lot to get there, and we don't have anyone who put together a tour or anything right now. So we'll see if we can make it again.
You guys, the Refreshments have actually, outside of being a band itself, you guys have actually backed up some pretty prominent UK artists such as Dave Edmunds and Steve Gibbons. How did the opportunity with Dave Edmunds come about?
Dave has been like when we were young, when we started the band, we used to listen to Dave Edmunds and Rockpile, the band with Nick Lowe and the others. So like we had an idea that we would like to bring him over, and we tried, but he didn't want to come. But the guitar player, Billy Bremner from Rockpile, he came. So he was here, and he's still here actually, just outside of Gävle, where I live. And Billy joined the band for 2-3 years, and he produced our first 2 albums. So then when Billy was here, he called Dave and said, "You should come over. These guys are playing rock and roll for real, and you would enjoy it. So come over." And then he did. So we did like 5-6 tours in Sweden with Dave, which was great fun.
You had mentioned that the band has been around for 30 years or so.
Yeah.
How did it originally all come together? Did you guys start off as a 50s and 60s cover band and then start writing originals?
That's kind of it. We were young. We were just 11 when we started our first band. So then at that age, we didn't kind of decide that we were going to play rock and roll or rockabilly or so. It was just an easy thing to start with, I think. And we enjoyed it, of course. But we started out with 3 chords. We did Johnny B. Good and Sweet Little 16 and stuff like that. And it never stopped. We got more and more into it and just loved it more and more. So, and that kind of, that style has kept the band together, and it's all we can do, and it's all we want to do. So that's how it's just continued.
You guys had stepped into the studio back in 1995 to put together your first studio album, both rock and roll, through Rifle Records. Probably unusual to be recording that style of music back in 1995 when, I don't know about Sweden, but grunge was kind of the thing and sort of more melancholy stuff.
Yeah, we've always been out, you could say, but we've never worried about it. We just go our own path and stick to it. Many people have been surprised because when we did it when we were young, they wondered why we would start up playing that kind of thing because we were the only ones then, and it's not many doing it today either over here. So there are more rockabilly bands, that's a big like a revival thing with double bass and rockabilly bands. But to play this traditional rock and roll, there aren't that many.
Do you play like the upright bass when you're playing the live shows, like in the 50s?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. A mixture. I do both.
Yeah.
Depending on the song, yeah.
So in the 90s here in America, we also had a band called the Refreshments. They're most famously known for composing the theme song to the King of the Hill cartoon back in the 90s. Did this ever become an issue with you guys in Sweden when the Refreshments in America were starting to come online here? Because you guys started about the same time, but it appears you guys started first.
Now, it hasn't been much of a problem. First, we got a bit, disappointed that there were two bands with the same name, but what it turned into was that we always written Sweden, like the Refreshments, Sweden, in brackets afterwards, so it won't get mixed up or cause confusion. But we're doing different kinds of music and so on, so I think people have learned that there are two bands now.
There's actually a third one I read about out of Finland.
It was actually a punk band in Finland for a couple of years. You're right. I think they quit quite early as well, but that's true. There were three bands going on.
Well, the American band didn't last more than 2 albums either, so you guys got them beat by at least 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah, we're very, what do you call it? Stubborn, I was going to say. We're a stubborn band. We won't stop.
Well, Joe, those are all the questions I have for you today. The new album by the Refreshments is a stiff one. It's out November 17th through Sound Pollution, Wild Kingdom. Fantastic album. Nobody's doing 50s and 60s rock and roll like you guys. I was very impressed with it, and I wish you the best of luck with it, and I want to thank you for coming on the show to talk about it tonight.
Thank you very much. Great to talk to you. Thank you.
Once again, I want to thank JOAKIM ARNELL of the Refreshments for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out their latest album, A Stiff One, out now through Sound Pollution, Wild Kingdom Records. Head over to your favorite music streaming app. Take a listen to what's available. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy. Support the artist. For all things The Refreshments, head over to their official website, therefreshments.se. I also want to thank John Freeman of Freeman Promotions and Sound Pollution Records for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. Discover your next favorite artist on the Rock is George podcast.